Every shopping center with discounted bookstores. It was so worth it. Somebody's husband's there, his wife doesn't want to be there. Go into bookstore. Oh, okay, then I don't mind. And consequently, it was important to get a bookstore and make the tax a little bit. And then we had 2 bookstores in Colorado Mall.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. They were little, and then we had 2 big ones.
We got forums.
Across the street, now we got 1.
Yes.
And there was a big bookstore in Gloucester too.
Well, I'll call the meeting to order. It is 6:02, so almost on time. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Historic Resources Commission of the City of Albany. We welcome those viewing us on YouTube, and also any comments that may be offered to us. We only request that the comments be held to the matter at hand under the jurisdiction of the HRC, and that they be limited to 3 minutes in duration. I am the chair of the commission, John Myers. In attendance this evening, we have Commissioner McEnany, Commissioner Garrity, Commissioner Kaplan, Commissioner Tobin, and Commissioner Hacker. We do have a quorum, so we can proceed with our activity. Also, Karen Glennon from the planning office is representing the commission as well. We don't have legal counsel this evening, so we're on our own. We have 3 items on the agenda this evening. 2 are public hearing items that would require us to issue a decision, and 1 is a public workshop agenda item. So I think with that, we can proceed with the return of the skinny pancake, thank you, the crate. On Steuben Street in the downtown Albany Historic District, and this is the alteration to the side with fabric structures for a business in the old, well, was the Steuben Athletic Club, but before that it was the old YMCA.
So I will run through this. The applicant did revise the application after the previous HRC hearing in February. They're now just proposing to install the 3-sided vestibule structure that will be installed and attached to the existing awning over the entry doors. It will measure 5 feet deep by 8.5 feet wide. And there will be a metal rigid form structure covered with canvas, and we'll have, I believe it's just, I forget if it's plexiglass or like a clear plastic kind of window openings. And then they also did provide specifications for the Anderson storm door that was requested by the commission as well. They did not say what they would be planning, if they were planning just taking the awning off and going back with any patio tables and chairs or what, and umbrellas, or what their plan was for that at this moment. But for right now, they're just requesting the approval for the vestibule structure.
And the vestibule is intended to be a year-round thing.
Correct.
It would be kept in place.
So they also did provide a picture of the old Brown Derby, which has been closed for 10 years, but also the Victory Cafe, which I did go by this yesterday, and it is also still in place and attached to the existing awning. So the planning department is recommending approval of the application with the condition that they do receive any easements or agreements from Corporation Council in order to install this on the city right of way. It is reversible and it is not physically attached to the structure itself, it's attached to the awning, so it would leave the building unaltered, undamaged, and no impact on the historic material.
And there's no intention of integrating signage into this awning.
I do not believe so. I believe that they currently have the lit projecting sign along Pearl Street, and I don't believe that they have any plans for additional signage on this.
There's something they were gonna remove from the Pearl Street side?
They're removing, and it doesn't, they're removing old retractable awnings from the Pearl Street elevation that were installed when it was the Pearl Street pub. Kind of same in this.
Erin, did you get any color samples for the awning?
For the awning or for the vestibule?
I'm sorry, for the vestibule.
I did not.
Okay.
I don't believe that was discussed at the last meeting.
No, I think we were on to the bigger structural
Yeah.
issues
Yeah.
in the meantime. So the awning stays,
The existing awning stays.
the existing
Correct.
black awning stays.
Yep. And the vestibule system itself is attached to the awning, it's not, they're not boring any holes into the mortar and the masonry in order to attach this to the structure.
Well, I'll ask the question to others. We don't usually spend a whole bunch of time dealing with color, although mostly that perhaps is about when things are painted and they're gonna be repainted. But it's a lot of black on the building. The image, can you show the image then that's in the application? And I'd like ask, yeah, perfect. So is it critical that it matches the black of the awning, or might it be able to be lightened up, just its presence a bit by a more empathetic color to the stone or the brownstone or another item? It's just very heavy as shown there.
In some sense, I like it better with the black, so you know it's not part of the original structure. I'm a little perplexed. Tell me there's no glass that you can look in there when you walk in?
Well, is that it?
Can't all be black, you mentioned plexiglass.
You mean that? I
Yeah.
forgot. I
What-
apologize,
What is it?
2 seconds.
I would think it's transparent.
It is
Whether it's
transparent,
plastic.
yes, it's, I mean, it is.
What it is, what the material is, but both examples they showed, the Victory Cafe and the Old Brown Derby, have transparent fixed side lights, so it reduces somewhat the
I think it would soften the black if it wasn't stark white the way it's.
Well, I think it's just that's the way that they're showing it within the image, but it is supposed to
Can
be a
we,
transparent.
can we see the other two? From the Victory and the, not Brown Derby,
So that's the Brown Derby.
so it's a cutout.
Yeah.
Correct.
I'm assuming it's gonna be like that and not look like a
Correct.
Yeah.
privacy screen for a bathroom.
There's a few different estimates, it's a little, and they're dated yet from 2022. But it appears that the vestibule will have transparent plastic windows.
Yes.
transparent vestibule sides.
Do you know which one you're looking at? Kevin?
It's there, no, December 15th, 2022.
Mhm.
So they're not planning to do anything with the larger
Awning.
covering or awning structure. It is taken off the table.
Correct.
Okay.
So just for consideration, tonight is the vestibule structure.
I wonder if they'd open it up in the nice weather, especially since they're catering to an outdoor crowd in the middle of the summer.
You mean the patio? Oh, that, you weren't here at the last meeting, you just realized that, yes. They have patio seating out in that area. The previous application was for this awning
Oh,
over their
okay.
seating area as well
Yeah.
as the vestibule.
Okay,
So they've now removed the proposal for the new awning system and are just proceeding with the vestibule.
And there's an image in here with signage on top of the awning, is that just to be in it? There was one. I'll flip it.
well, there's
I'm
another
sure there was one.
cartouche or something there with red. And I don't know what that is,
Oh, those are just dimensions,
just a dimension.
correct.
I'm surprised there isn't some marking indicating that it's an existing business. Or a monogram or something like that.
I think it's the last photograph, right before the, right before the page, it's got their logo, there it is. Yeah. So that's,
That is
Existing.
on the interior door, it's a decal on the door, on the side light. That circular, or
no,
this?
no, I was trying to describe where it was in the deck of photos.
This?
No, the sign on top.
This?
Yeah.
That's the street signage on the light post, that says
Oh, yeah.
Steuben Street.
Oh, it
Yeah.
is, yeah,
That's in the
of course it is,
foreground.
okay, of course it is.
But they do have, there's a window decal
Yes,
here that does
okay.
say Skinny Pancake.
I mean, I think of as the color question, and their imagery seems to look like it's a slightly different color than the black. But I don't know if their intent was to match the color of the framing of the windows and the doors in the building itself. That's probably a dark bronze of some sort.
Well, in the package is the aluminum storm door, so that'll tell us a color probably. Easy install storm. Says black, color family black.
Okay.
What's up above it that's flat?
This?
Yeah, what is that? Is it there now?
It's there, it's existing.
I think they addressed the question we had before, which was to show the vestibule from the Pearl Street side. And you can see that on the Pearl Street side, they'll have a transparent window in the vestibule, which I think was one of our big questions.
I think the sash on the individual buildings is already black, isn't it? If you go and put the other direction on for the,
It looks like it.
yeah,
Yeah, it's very dark color.
it's consistent.
Yeah.
You know, it is what it is, it's just like the Liberty, the two other examples we saw. They're what they are, they're a glorified awning. And it doesn't have to be exactly the same. And the other two are deliberately different. I don't have a problem with it. I mean, the building is so beautiful, you don't want to distract with anything. You know, I mean, it's gorgeous, it's all been
Beautiful,
cleaned,
yeah.
it's just a beautiful, beautiful building.
Yeah, I think maximizing the transparency of the fixed lights
Yeah.
that are in it.
Yeah.
Comply with all of the various sidewalk ordinances since they're constructing this on city property.
I wasn't here when they were talking about the lighting, is there lighting hidden underneath it, or the overhang or something like that?
I'm not sure, I mean, I think that their like their current entryway might have lighting, but
Yeah,
I don't believe that they're going to be providing
I mean, if
external
there's an
lighting.
overhang, it's not much.
I think the spill of light through the door out onto the
Yeah.
sidewalk is probably,
And so's the street light would do it.
would anyone care to make a motion in this matter?
I move we approve the vestibule as presented with the condition that they comply with the city permit for installing it on city property.
Second,
Any other discussion? Anyone phoning in on YouTube? No, okay. Call a motion to a vote then, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it is unanimously carried.
Thank you.
Obviously, if they come back with any signage ideas or lighting ideas, those would have to come to us anyhow.
Correct.
Okay. Next item on the agenda was good reading, is the Graceland Cemetery, 680 Delaware Avenue. And this is consideration of nominating the Graceland Cemetery Receiving Vault to the State National Register of Historic Places. And may I ask someone to represent this and describe what's going on?
We'll have two people represent.
Okay.
So we should introduce
You
ourselves. right?
identify yourselves,
Okay,
please.
my name's Steve Riley. I am a partner at Taylor Riley Wilson Architecture and Preservation,
I'm Alan Colpo, I'm the architectural historian at Taylor Riley Wilson.
who wrote the document that you.
Okay.
So shall we address questions, or would you like a brief summary, or?
Well, I think a summary would help. I mean,
do we have a picture of this?
who's proposing it and
Yes.
what's the rationale behind it? Obviously, the document lays that out very well.
Right, I think I might start a little bit with the premise here that we were asked by Harry Armides and the group that runs the cemetery to come take a look at this building, give them some opinions of existing conditions, problems of repair, certain analyses about aspects that should be prioritized for restoration, and ultimately start assigning some order of magnitude costs and schedule for achieving such. And in parallel, they had hoped to use the building in a very respectful and light touch sort of way for ceremonies in the future. But maybe first and foremost was to stabilize it, preserve it, keep it from going further into disrepair. As part of this process, and I think we pretty early on looked at this and said, this is not your average receiving vault. This is a pretty spectacular building, and it justified some additional research, which Alec can probably speak to best. So I'll let you give it a shot.
So it's being proposed for eligibility under criterion C for architectural merit. It's quite a rare example of a receiving vault due to its size and the sort of high style of architecture that it exhibits here. There are very few within the state and not even that many in the country that are of that size. And it's also significant. It was designed by Garnet Douglas Baltimore, who was a landscape architect from Troy. And he was the first African-American graduate from RPI. And he did work on other cemetery buildings as well, and the design of other cemeteries in the area. So those are the two primary reasons why we're arguing for eligibility under C is the rarity of the type of receiving vault that it is, a fully above ground vault. Often they are partially or wholly underground. This one's completely above ground, and it also has a chapel in the front half with the vault in the back half. But unusually, the exterior has basically just the appearance of a receiving vault. It doesn't look so much like a chapel. A lot of the ones that have a chapel in them will look more like a chapel, be more ornate. So that's another thing that makes this one fairly unique.
You look at the inside, it's bigger than it looks on the outside.
That's right.
What's the date on it?
1902.
Now Baltimore designed the cemetery as a whole, which
Did he?
I believe the entirety of what you see is his.
There have been some extensions to the cemetery.
Yeah.
But the part of the cemetery that this is in still appears virtually how it was.
It's identical,
This building hasn't been moved. You know, the setting is intact, the location's intact. It hasn't really been altered, so you've got materials and design that are still intact as well. So yeah, it has really good integrity.
It's beautiful.
Have the folks at the state already said that just the building itself and not the larger environs was?
There's
the
a
reason?
story there.
I'm sure there is.
Yeah, we've discussed this
Yeah.
with them, and ultimately, yes, they said that
Okay.
they support nominating this individual building.
Aaron Maroney and who
Aaron Zernecki and Virginia Bartos.
Virginia had come to the site to sort of get to the bottom of sort of the finest ideas of why the building instead of the entire cemetery.
Especially if he was a landscape architect.
Right, and
Right.
their determination, and we don't find much reason for the moment to argue this, or argue against this, was that the building rose to the occasion, where the cemetery maybe not so much for nomination as a register-worthy property.
Is it because the landscape of the cemetery has been dramatically altered, from the Baltimore design, or?
It's not so much that it was altered, it's more that it's not as unique, it's not an outstanding example of the type of cemetery that it is. The lawn cemetery type, whereas the building is very unusual and is an outstanding example of the.
St. Agnes was the first Catholic cemetery to be put on the National Register. And everybody here knows who got it as an unpaid intern. That was his first job. And it was put in the rural cemetery design. And I would think the difference between this, its original part, not just the southern part that was expanded, is that it's flat. And I think the flatness, I mean, it has some curving roadways and some that aren't, but it's essentially all flat. And the one principle, if you're into the rural cemetery design, is you tend to have it go. Have at least some small hills and indentations and so on, the road cuts through. It's, the flatness says it's not one of those, it's something else. And I think that would be the reason why the cemetery as geography would make it.
Another item to consider here is I think from a documentation standpoint of the original, we have precisely 2 drawings
Yes.
and nothing more. And those
Yeah.
drawings are of the building.
Yeah.
Our ability to document how this cemetery came to be through writing
Yeah.
or drawing or anything else, we've looked and it's as yet not reared its head. There may be a drawer somewhere in somebody's house with something that we haven't seen. But for now, we'd like to start with
Nothing in
this.
the state commission of the regulatory commission for cemeteries or
Yeah,
anything like that.
questions were asked and not much,
Nothing
anything
came
came
up.
back.
No,
Where did you find the 2 drawings?
They had them in their files.
Oh, they did?
At the cemetery, yeah.
Okay.
Sitting in our office right now, I think,
yeah, I think so.
protected.
Street gingerly.
The listing of this doesn't preclude a future exploration of the significance of the remaining Baltimore landscape as a lawn cemetery.
No.
Should
Not at all.
Not at
the
all.
winds that should go change.
No, it's, yeah, the cemetery is still there to be potentially listed at any future time.
What about the stained glass? Did you see that article this week on the, Greenwood cemeteries or Woodlawn cemeteries, was in the Times?
No, I didn't see that yet.
Oh, yeah, it's Cemetery Association and with, I forgot which stained glass firm, they're kind of accessing quite a number of vaults and structures and seeing glass that's never been seen and it's really, and some folks at the Met are working with it, yeah, it's interesting.
Okay.
That's why I'm gonna ask you about the stained glass.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we haven't
haven't seen that.
recognized anything outstanding
Yeah.
and remarkably unique in the glass panels, panes themselves. And you know, I did have a conversation with the folks over in Buffalo, whose office, the Stained Glass Association, whose office is in the Trinity Church there, where we helped that church also get an EPF grant to do a restoration of their glass, but they did not have any,
They didn't know anything.
they weren't jumping with excitement to say one
Oh,
thing or
read this
another.
article, you will jump at top of it.
Okay, yeah,
I think it was just this week.
okay.
But Aaron, I don't see how anything being done here would preclude anything else in the future. In fact, it may jumpstart
Yeah.
some additional efforts to research it.
So what do you need from us?
So this will be going before the state review board on March 14th for a formal vote and then sending it to MPS from there. So because the city is a certified local government, it's the HRC's responsibility to hold a public hearing for us to then you can put forward a motion to, you know, support the nomination under criterion C. And that would just be, it would be a motion in support of this nomination going forward, so. And then I would send documentation on to ship out in order for them to put that into the file for support, and that we've held a hearing. So part of this, I did notify property owners within 250 feet of the cemetery that this would be happening this evening, so.
So in 32 years, this is only my 3rd time having this kind of exercise undertaken. And I think in the end, effectively the endorsement of the municipality goes a long way to stack up with the rest of the information and strengthens, galvanizes the nomination process back to Park Service.
We certainly find it a fascinating study that we've done. It's a very thorough analysis of
First time
the
ever
whole
saw
genre
the
of this
inside.
building type, as well as the unique characteristics of this one. So, no, I think you're to be commended for following this through.
So question, I assume this is some of the, I mean, they're proud of their structure as they should be and eligibility for EPF or other funding sources. But that could look like an after photograph. What's the condition in general of the building and the interior and?
There is a short but relatively intense list of problems. There is some isolated structural settlement, but we should talk a little bit first about the pressed metal ceiling that you see there at the top, having been almost destroyed, and the subframe as well, from having had years and years of unrepaired roofing. And I think you know, some of the repairs that were done were with you know, a short term in mind. We'll just get by with this for a while until we can do what we need to do. And you know, it is a goal once this is on the register, we hope, to pursue grant opportunities to do a comprehensive restoration. And in the case that they, as I mentioned before, they want to use this space here as a ceremonial space for certain functions, they'll put a very light touch of what's effectively casework furniture in there, completely reversible, and some lighting to accentuate things. But I think they also would like.
Finishes in as good condition as they appear here?
Yeah, has not seen a lot of use.
What? I've seen a lot of water.
I mean, as a chapel, really, because that's essentially what it is.
Yeah, this is the chapel portion.
They'd just like to use it as a chapel.
I've gone there and spoken a couple of times
Mhm.
for the circular plot for Spanish American War veterans. And to have a place like this handy while it's raining, where people can get in there for a little while and then come out for the actual thing would be very useful.
We did find records. Now, you could speak to this maybe better than I, but this building in particular, it was very important from a functional standpoint. Bodies were brought from further north even than Glens Falls.
Yeah,
I mean,
quite
from
far away. It
long
was-
distances,
Really?
just to be held until the ground allowed
Yeah.
for graves to be dug, and it was a sought after place.
Yeah, it's
I think because
expensive.
of the size
Yeah.
and ease of getting in and out, and you know, they had agreements among cemeteries to be able to use spaces like this.
And I think also this is the first, Graceland was the first cemetery that was completely non-sectarian. So I think that also contributed to the amount of use this got.
Yeah, it's it also has a lot of people who were definitely minorities at the time. There's a huge Armenian and Greek section in there. There's a huge African American section there. It's it means a lot to a lot of people.
Well, the folks running the cemetery are very proud of it, and they are very thoughtful and calculating in any decisions they make about things on cemetery grounds. But this in particular, they called us and said, we're gonna need your help with this, so.
Well, it's certainly demonstrates their foresight as well. It looks like from that photograph, you can store 32 caskets in there without much difficulty.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's 60 actually.
No,
Yeah, there's a lot of
30 on each
space,
side.
oh, okay,
if you can reach China.
Yeah.
and it's all marble, so it's, yeah, there's a certain degree of respect in the original design to,
Oh,
you
of
know, the
course.
dignity of what function this is performing.
I move to support the nomination. Do you have anything to say about it?
We have a motion,
Second.
a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
I,
Opposed? Alright. Well, thank you very much for a very thoughtful study and very enlightening education for the commission.
Sure. Thanks for the discussion as well.
Thank you.
We'll come back with some, if it gets nominated and actually becomes register bound, and then maybe we'll get to work on it and show you some aftershots.
Take some tours.
That'd be great.
I had a macabre experience there once, and that whole hill, the hills on the Norman Scale are made out of clay. And when it goes, half the hill drops out. And we saw one over on Route 85, that area going out to Slingerlands, but part of this went once, and I remember I was in whatever official capacity and went and looked at it and looked at Olivia Rory's casket with her name on it. I had been at her funeral, and that was several years behind, and everybody had to be moved and had to backfill and so on, but to see someplace where you had been there years before and there's that same name and the same remains, made a memory.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Next item on the agenda is a public workshop item. So there won't be a decision required.
Tonight it's just a workshop, so, the project for Clinton Avenue is returning. The last time that it was presented to the HRC, it was under concept review, and so they've now formally submitted for, a workshop. So tonight would just be to provide any additional feedback, and then they will return again for a formal hearing.
Right. Okay. So this is the Clinton Avenue Phase 3. And home leasing in the Clinton Avenue, North Pearl Street, Clinton Square Historic District. Is there anyone here to represent the case?
Good evening, my name is Brian Dion, I'm a project architect with SWBR.
Welcome.
I can just run through this and then Brian, I have the property set up, but at the concept review meeting, the commission had requested, that the applicant provide renderings showing, contextual renderings showing neighboring properties, revision to materials such as the vinyl windows, vinyl siding, to show the grade difference in some of the, on some of the sites where the buildings may be stepped. And then I also believe, revision for the property that's going to be renovated, revision to the first floor storefront. And then also proposed materials at that site as well. So, let me start with future plan. So the building is 72 Clinton, it'll be clad with a brick veneer. The windows are now being proposed as double hung, 1/1 fiberglass or a composite material. don't believe that there are many changes on this one, but then both neighboring buildings on either side are also, masonry construction.
There was also a comment about the windows being together and being a square proportion. So we separated those, make them more vertical.
What's on the foundation?
It would be a concrete foundation, the rubbed finish, so it won't have the formwork impressions on it, it would be a clean finish.
Wouldn't look like cement block though.
No,
So what would it be?
It has like a parging, like a rubbed
Yeah.
parge on the exterior of it.
concrete.
Is it smooth like this, or does it have some kind of a texture on it?
I think it'd be like a stucco kind of texture.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Smooth,
I
but
suppose if it gets too smooth, it just screams cement.
Mhm.
You know,
No, it would, yeah, it would likely have a,
some
you know,
texture.
a textured surface.
Right.
you know.
Yeah, the rubbed, it has like a rubbed finish, so it's
Okay.
not like a complete,
Yeah.
it's not like a skin coat
Okay.
finish.
So it's poured concrete with a parged finish? Or
That
is it
doesn't,
a block, or is it,
it's, yeah,
see, and
And the lintels over the window that are stone head, it says they're cast stone. Real stone or veneer? Is it a large piece of stone, or is it something with a, made to look like stone,
I think it'd be a cast stone, so it'd be concrete
cast stone?
that looks like stone, yeah.
That would be the thickness of the brick veneer.
Yeah.
when I saw this, I'm relieved that we at least have a brick veneer. And we struggle with some of the new construction we see, and maybe a kind of our own internal workshop might be helpful as we continue to see more. Because we tend to only look at the front facades and accept what's on the sides, even though those are visible too, portions of them. We get a lot of plastic, a lot of not long-term durable or really compatible materials. But here, we got, I was pleased to see that there was a face brick and not just an EIF, just a stucco or foam surface. That was great. Jack, I like that you asked the question about the face of the foundation, because that is one of the closest elements that you see from, as a pedestrian on the sidewalk there at the moment. So, you made me nervous, Erin, the answer.
Sorry.
No, the answer of the swirled finish, which was almost the gesture you gave, was like, oh no, not just the swirled finish concrete. So I think a further discussion of that and what we'd like to see, whether it's a true scored concrete or something else, I think will be really useful to have, and that's not a major change to where you are. But I am pleased that we've got at least a face brick veneer here, and
The proportions look perfect.
Yeah, they look good.
So, any additional comments on this one?
should we finish the conversation now about the finished face of the upper foundation wall?
If, I mean, there, There are a few other properties within the grouping of project sites that also will have a slightly exposed foundation with the same type of finish, so.
Okay.
The next site is 180 Clinton Avenue. The existing laundromat that is there is a non-contributing structure, so it will not be coming before the board for the demolition review, but it will be going to the planning board for the demolition review. So the HRC will just be reviewing the construction of the 4 row houses. Again, another set of 3-story row houses. This was one from the previous design. They were proposing vinyl siding, vinyl windows. Those have been changed from vinyl siding to cementitious siding, and then again, the vinyl windows have been changed to a composite fiberglass material.
You need, on the soffit, all the way across the top, you need a break. So it shows that you've got 4 buildings instead of 2 long skinny ones. See on the top, it needs a break of some sort. Maybe even some kind of a pattern, so that each one is a little wider at the end of,
A larger bracket
Yeah,
at the
something,
end,
yeah,
defining
correct.
the width of the building.
so that it has ownership for the building below it, instead of 2.
So Jack, it looks now like it's 2 long runs,
Yeah,
right? So do we want actually 4 sections, not just the
yeah,
greater detailing at the ends, but an articulation of 4 sections?
yeah, I mean, we'll
Yeah.
see how they come up with it, but so that they have an identity with the building below it.
Will the windows be white?
Yes.
I know we don't regulate color, I'm just curious.
And
Makes sense to me.
it's gonna look like clapboard, or it's gonna look like,
It will be a horizontal lap siding.
pardon,
Sorry, it'll be a horizontal lap siding, yes,
horizontal?
a lap siding,
Clapboard.
It'll look
clapboard
like that.
siding, yes,
Oh,
it'll,
okay,
yes.
okay,
It's not
Gotcha.
large cementitious panels or
Yeah.
anything of that nature.
Erin, can you zoom in so that they're all pretty similar, so that we can look at the first floor, trim around?
That's as close as I can get,
Yeah, is that how close you can go? That's pretty
Yeah.
good.
sorry.
No, that's good.
Do the bay windows actually protrude out?
Yes.
Is that material?
Those are clad with a PVC trim that would be painted white.
How far
So the
out do
whole
they protrude?
I think it's about a foot.
So the whole bay that protrudes is all plastic and then painted?
Yes.
How's that gonna look in 20 years? Did you say plastic?
Yeah, PVC is just plastic, so it's just all plastic bays. And the cornice is also plastic?
Yes. Yeah, all the trim work is the PVC.
We'll put that on our workshop discussions. Cause if they're new buildings and they're contemporary materials, and we're not otherwise really charged with durability and potential to repair and maintenance. But it is I share your concern, which I think is what you were asking.
Yeah. yeah, it's more about sustainability, also aesthetics. But
Any thoughts from anyone on the treatment of the first floor, the almost paired first floor windows?
I imagine there would be an exterior casing, but it's not represented.
The upper floor windows have some casing, just for the trim to die
Yeah,
into,
just, I
right?
thought you were speaking on the lower windows. I don't know, maybe I just not reading the rendering, but. This is more plastic.
Brian, do you know if they have an exterior casing or trim work on the windows frames?
They would have trim, yeah, casing, I'm not certain it's shown here. I guess the question I would have is, would you prefer to, I mean, would those windows have the siding continue between them, or should that be a piece of trim so they kind of read as a pair?
It caught my attention that it looked unfinished.
Mhm.
In terms of from your perspective, kind of working through it, so once you apply the trim, I think the question is, do you want them to be as if they're molded together, or it feels as if maybe there's a different way to think about them. Without little 9-inch pieces of siding between.
Yeah, I think once you put trim around it, that little piece of siding is gonna get pretty small. So
Yeah.
there may be a different treatment that's consistent. The detailing that you're going to be using.
I mean, what if you took it right down to gray or brown there?
The windows? Or just
Yeah, just the treatment of the, alright, so I guess they're Oreo windows about only a
Right.
foot out, right?
We've been
And then
educated.
when you get to the lower bottom is the bay, would you not just continue something similar as the upper 2 floors? And just bring it to the ground, or is it close there too? I just,
I think it'd be overly vertical if you.
yeah, could be that.
I think we had also, at least in preliminaries, kind of just, we had discouraged, not the HRC, but planning staff had discouraged bringing the bay all the way down to the ground, but if,
No,
Do you know what the thinking of that would have been, Erin?
I think it's pretty atypical within the historic district.
That's
You
what they
don't
were
see a
saying,
lot
they
of,
didn't have
you don't
another.
see a lot of examples of like a
Usually they're-
3-story
Coming
bay
all the way
carried
down.
all the way down, at least within the Clinton Avenue district.
Yeah.
It also depends on how close you are to the sidewalk too.
there's something off though about the proportion of how far down that Oriole comes on from the second floor to the first floor, like if you look at the dashed line.
You are right,
It's like that should come up
yes.
and then the first floor windows should be taller. Because it's like the bottom of the second floor, basically the sill of that Oriole is lined up with a door, and that's weird.
I think you're right. Are there
No, I
any other
think that's a
photos in the
Good
deck
point.
of, yeah, or a Clinton Ave building with a bay? Yeah,
It's
exactly.
stopping on windows.
Not 3-story, but we do have,
The one on the right,
this one. Or,
the what?
oops, sorry. This one? That's too
Yeah, it's worthy of a little more investigation. The problem with this, the one on the left, the pink building, is that it's been sided and maybe kicked out. We don't know what the material originally was and how far it extended. The 2-story structure on the right side, but that has a lot, I mean, the proportions at the upper bay feel better The lower bay is kind of heavy, but it might have even kind of sloped in, we have no idea what it's like underneath. But even the slide that you had just before you showed us this one, on the,
There's a building on the right that's kind of covered in the trees, was that a double bay?
Yes, there's a double bed.
yeah,
Mhm.
Okay.
that's the one, yeah,
But
so,
that goes down, that has a elevated first floor,
right,
so you've got windows down below. Proportionally, it's different than
Yeah.
what's
right.
being proposed.
How tall are the interior ceilings finished?
I believe they're 8 feet to the ceilings.
I'm sure the answer is right on Clinton Avenue.
Yeah, I feel like there's a building that has those
There's,
proportions.
there's a lot of bays and, yeah,
That's a lot,
If the bottom of the two sets of doubles there, if there was because that can't be the floor level where that dotted line is. Otherwise, you've got a real short door, maybe not, because the door goes below, but that one piece, if it weren't there, this one here, if that was up just a little bit higher, so that the bottom of this met the top of that,
Yes,
instead of making them almost flush. I think that's where we get disoriented.
So it's almost the bottom of the panel.
Yeah.
So the bottom of the oriole comes to the top of the door lintel
Yeah,
instead of. And then you'd have more room for trim and I think
Yeah.
the proportion of the windows would look better. Does make sense.
Makes sense, yeah.
yeah, good.
Yeah, I think that would improve the proportion of it. It wouldn't look like the oriole is squishing the first floor. Because it looks like it's kind of crushing the first floor windows.
or it implies that somehow inside the right-hand side of, there's a step up to it, or a step down to the left-hand side.
Yeah.
Actually, it's practically a head banger anyway. Look at this height of the landing and, yeah,
It'd have to be pretty tall.
well, 6'6",
Well, if the door's 6'8" and the door is up a couple steps
yeah,
to the
I
stoop,
couldn't quite, yeah.
6 inches, right?
basketball player would whack it.
Kids would definitely try to jump and hang off of it.
Oh, that's true. Then it's an attractive nuisance.
Yeah.
So Erin, could you help again, kind of where are we in this whole different set of sequences that we're looking at? We just looked at the single,
So we looked at, we have the single at new construction of a single building at 72 Clinton.
Yep.
And the construction of 4 new buildings at 180.
Yep.
So we looked
So that means it's 180, 182,
84, 186.
okay,
Correct.
individual.
So then the next property is also a single 3-unit building at 233 Clinton Avenue. Again, the changes that were made here were going from vinyl siding to cementitious lap siding. Change from vinyl windows to the fiberglass windows. This is another building that does have the slightly raised foundation with the rubbed finish. And it will feature aluminum handrails, wooden steps, the two-story bay.
Which has the same issue.
Same stuff, yeah.
Yep,
Same stuff.
same materials.
Let's speak again, not necessarily to the material, but looking at the cornices. So, Jack, I think you was right on identifying in the group of four that they could be modified to relate to each building.
We also might wanna do something
But yeah,
with the one that's up there now, more so even from the one we just looked at where we had the four together. Because you have the most elaborate
Yeah.
top on the building next to it, which makes the other one look, really like it's overly thin. Maybe that could have a little more detail on it, considering what its next door neighbor is. Just make it a little wider or something.
it really jumps out, particularly on this image of
Yeah,
its needs for scale and detail and or spacing and or fascia.
something.
Maybe we'll look back to the other ones just to make sure it really pops out on this version, how we could do better.
Well, and look at the window surrounds on the blue clapboard building on the left. Like that's some good, nice trim, right? It's hard to tell, but comparing the proportions and the upper trim, one
Yeah,
versus the other, that gives you a good sense.
It's the setting that didn't disturb us when we saw four together and the only game in town. And the one next to it was very, you might wanna consider a different kind of lining around it for the little very sparse windows that are over the hall. They're absolutely minimal. Do they need something, maybe a lintel above those two, each of them? Would that help? It would,
And or the boulder trim,
or a boulder trim might do it.
yeah.
I think we're more harsh with this one because of its two next door neighbors.
I also think that there's just touches of some individuality in some of these buildings,
I was gonna ask on the other one with the four in a row, do all four doors have to match perfectly? It could be every other one, could be something, could be compatible.
well, much like you suggested, like that lentil look or something, just hear that.
Maybe after we finish all of these, we'll go back, that would be useful, I think, to. Yeah. Is this the last of the new?
The other sites, so there's 325 and 327 and 331 and 333 Clinton. It's a cluster of four buildings, separated by the pink building that we were looking at earlier, with the bay. So this is 225 and 227 Clinton. With two.
Here's an example,
Yeah,
well, here's an example of the different type of cornice, we've got dental.
Those corners works
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, someone's gonna break it up.
Yeah,
And some articulation where the lintel would be, right? That helps the height, that helps take that expanse.
give it a sill, a little bit of a thicker sill on those windows, and then it starts to.
And lift the oriel so it's not crushing the first floor windows.
And then the same two buildings that 331 and 333 Clinton have.
Wait, are these what we just looked at a second ago, or are these something different?
Correct, and it's the next two parcels. So it's 325 and 327, then it's broken by the pink building, and then it's another two lots 331 and 333 Clinton Avenue.
So there are two more on the other side of the pink building.
Correct.
That we saw already,
We just looked at.
those ones we just.
Oh, I see, they're exactly the same.
They're exactly the same.
Oh, but can they be a little different?
Well, they are on
If you wanna make that
Yeah.
suggestion.
the side.
So the cornices, it's
literally
easy,
the
The
same.
cornices are different.
the cornices are easy to detail differently. And across all these, and Jack, the notion that the doors could be different,
Particularly with the 4 in a row.
and or 2 in a row,
Yeah.
right,
or
that's
2 in a row.
easily done.
Yeah.
We don't regulate paint color, but it would be really nice if they were not exactly the same paint color. I'll just
I'm sure
Say-
they will be.
like, they will be the same color?
No, I'm sure they'll be
Alright.
different.
Like, it looks like they literally you literally like copied and pasted the same buildings, right?
Yeah.
How funny. Alright,
I can't see the foundation of these.
These are great.
They're great. If it's done right, it could mean handicapped accessible too.
Yes. That's the goal.
That would be great.
What's our action tonight for these?
Tonight, so this is just a workshop meeting,
Just
There's no-
offering comments.
Yeah.
Great,
no action by the commission other than any type of recommendations or request for additional information.
have we seen the details on any of the railings?
No.
You have that, Marion?
So home leasing, this is phase 3, of course, the home leasing is done, 2 prior phases, and the railings would match, what they've done on the previous phase. I believe it's a painted aluminum railing. Handrail.
Maybe it'd be good to have those details again when we come back, and also when, especially if there's 4 in a row, or even 2 in a row, they don't, any variation, I think would be appreciated.
And then, so that is it for the new construction, and then there is the renovation at 337 Clinton Avenue. And building with the ladybug.
can you go back to the existing?
Can you put them side by side? She does have
Yeah.
special skills, Erin.
Oh, that would be really nice.
We ought to be able to save the existing cornice.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to
It's
see,
right
yeah,
there.
you're saving the
Yeah,
cornice.
so the
You're
idea
saving
is
the-
the cornice would be restored
Good.
above all the way at the top of the building, and any missing brackets would be replaced. And then again, above the storefront, that would all be restored, and above the main entry door.
Can we see the
Taken and
proposed
restored.
again?
Yeah.
See if there it is. So everything, all that existing storefront and the cornice, it doesn't read,
The words say it, the drawing doesn't say it.
Right.
yeah,
So that is gonna be a potential business for someone?
No, it's a
It's a unit.
a unit.
Oh, it just looks very much like
the
a-
storefront's gonna be a residential unit?
Or, oh, is it?
Yes.
That's what the plan says.
did last time too, I just hope.
We've seen a number of them worked out all right.
But the storefront windows will remain.
Yes.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
with that indentation.
recreate the
existing.
original
That's the way that it is,
layout.
it's existing.
The
It's a
door
fairly angled recess.
would just be a false door,
Somebody may wanna put a gate
so
over
you
it.
wouldn't be an entry door into the living room, that entry door is off the hallway on the side.
Otherwise, you could
Okay.
So
complete
that's
it.
just a fixed door.
A fixed door just to replicate that storefront.
Okay.
Erin, can you go back to the existing? I
Yeah.
don't see it in the packet here. So the apartment is gonna have big plate glass windows as part of its unit. Big plate glass, okay. And a glass transom above the door?
Yes.
It's worth, I have the proposed here, and looking at, there's quite a bit of detail around the storefront, above the storefront and the sides of the storefront. And I'm not sure about the panels below, saying here, but there's quite a bit of loss happening. The storefront is, I think we'd like more information and much better photos. It's really quite different, it's kind of heavy-handed what happened to the trim and some of the other elements there. But what I see there that's green, I don't know if that's painted plywood, and what you're showing, or the transom is underneath that. I don't know, so I think we need quite a bit more information
Yeah.
there on the treatment of the storefront and the extent to which any of the original materials could be repaired.
I wonder what was above the three windows on the second floor. I know the aluminum siding is eliminated, whatever was there, but it's a pretty elaborate cornice on top, and you wonder, was it that plain? Was it just like the one on the right side with no detail? Or did it have something unique?
Is that occupied now, no, it's got a red X on it.
Yeah,
Does anybody have access to remove a couple of courses of that probably aluminum siding, so you can get a look underneath?
I can find out.
I think we need more information. This one's got quite a bit of historic fabric, either concealed or visible.
Yeah.
So I think more information on what's existing and how that relates to what's proposed would be helpful.
The windows look, and they may not be, but they look excessively narrow.
Yeah,
Or it's got a higher ceiling than it seems.
yeah.
Yeah, the windows are quite tall, and when you
They're
compare it to the building next door,
Yeah.
that one, the windows likely have been altered on
Yeah.
that.
Next
Short.
door, yeah.
Yeah,
Marilyn, you're asking for maybe some photos from the inside out of that storefront, so without necessarily taking down the plywood, get an idea of the
Whatever it
condition.
takes to figure out what's
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah, whatever it
Because-
takes.
we got that in was it one in the south end, we saw like the back of the storefront, and that really informed a
Right.
lot of what
That's right.
the details were.
That's right.
You can take it from the inside, and maybe even instead of this rendering,
Hey, nice.
like show us, like it was possible to show us the existing building
Yeah.
instead of a rendering version of the existing building and what you'll do on the existing building. I think that might be easier for you too. If you're really gonna keep that cornice and you're really gonna keep the storefronts around,
They don't look like the same windows
they don't,
anymore.
the rendering doesn't match at all.
No.
So it's in your, I think it'll help us with the review, if
The
you just
second
show us
floor
the
windows
existing
don't
building
look like the
and
same.
you know what I mean?
Not the 2/2.
Yeah,
And that whole cornice at the storefront,
yeah,
those two don't relate either.
it looks like you're replacing all of the details in that rendering, and I'm guessing that's just an accident of the rendering, not
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
intention.
Was there somewhere that there was an attempt to try to keep the Henry Johnson mural on the side of the building?
Yeah,
yeah,
It-
that
it
that
is
was
now.
noted in
Yeah.
How realistic is that, given the condition of this building? Someone's assessed it, I'm sure.
It's on a T111 or something?
It is on T111, yeah.
Hmm.
It's gonna, we're gonna try to save it, but I know a number of those panels are warped already. And if it can't be saved and restored, then it's going to be replaced. Home Leasing has been in touch with the artist who did the mural,
Quantum passes.
Samson.
so
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly what those were. So, yeah, we want it there.
So you take it down, restore what you have to, keep what you can, put it back on?
Yeah, I mean, another concern is that T111 isn't very durable.
Yeah, it's not gonna
It's not gonna last long.
Yeah.
So maybe
Okay, for the first 20 years.
Like the
So,
same, as much as the plastic or will last.
Maybe you could redo it in plastic. No, you can scratch that from the.
Yeah.
So that would be good.
It was a puzzle to me, how are you gonna do this, how are you gonna?
Who owns the vacant
Yeah.
lot to the left of the building?
That was the county, right? The county owns
I
it?
believe it's the,
so.
it's either the city or the county, but it is part of the overall project package, so it will be a parklet.
I wonder if there's how much is a lot on two busy streets worth? If you gave it for free to somebody, they could probably afford to put a decent building on top of it.
Well, it's included in the home leasing phase
Yeah.
3 parcel, so they're going to be redeveloping it for community use.
Maybe it would look better all around if you put a building next to it and then worried about the mural someplace else. Especially if you've got control of it, it's in the deal. One of the things that when you lose a building, it's always annoying, sometimes tragic. But when you lose a corner building, it's always worse. And then you have a building next door that was never meant to see light of day, is now the very prominent corner building that is facing the wrong way. And if you can, particularly if there's not a lot of cost in getting a hold of the vacant land, lot, it would be advisable for this building and the neighborhood and the streetscape to have two fronts on a building that's made to be usually something commercial.
I never heard the word parklet, so I thought it was pretty cool.
What's that?
Parklet?
It's a little teeny park.
Tiny part.
There's one on the opposite side too.
Yeah. I'm blushing.
Often where they take over a couple of parking spots, you'll see them in cities, and they'll take over some parking spots and create, there's a lot of them like in San Francisco and, you know, whatever. They'll take over some parking spots and kind of allow that to be outdoor seating of some sort. We saw it during COVID, but even more permanent. I think Hudson has some of them too, yeah.
Or like a pocket park,
Yeah,
Pocket
Yeah.
park,
referred to as
Pocket
pocket parks.
yeah.
that middle is a prime
Park is not
person for all
parklet.
kinds of little places like
That
that.
sounds different than parklet.
Brooklyn, elsewhere.
I'm still sad that corner building came down.
Yeah,
Cause it was mothballed by the county. Anyways,
so are we done with the new construction, so we can kind of organize our comments around those?
Yes, if you would like to go back, we can start, I mean, is there?
start again.
No, no,
Can you
Well-
read us, maybe if you read us through the comments that we made, and then we can see if there was something like with the photos, and then.
Alright, so. '72 Clinton, would request more information on the finish for the foundation. So, detail and information.
excuse me one second, can you zoom in so that we can see the upper treatment, the cornice or whatever of the building on the right? It's,
This one?
no, we
No?
could see that one, that one.
Can you see it?
Some big brackets up there.
Masonry?
both buildings are masonry, painted brick. It does have arch lintel.
Yeah.
It's got a pretty big, not cornice, but kind of a parapet, did you say?
It looks like a brick parapet
Yeah.
with pilasters.
It's
At
almost,
the,
it doesn't really come across on the TV, but it almost looks like it's got brackets.
Well, like
And it
the
almost like
two
it's
units,
curled, and
yeah,
like it,
it is.
field trip.
Oh, yeah, what are you gonna go with? I wanna go to the mausoleum though. Yeah, I mean, the receiving chamber. I mean, we'd like to go to your project too. We'll invite you to the, yeah, we'll invite you. I think in general, when we get to the cornices, where we've got, so some articulation of individual buildings, more variety, less, more variety, and even, again, the building on the left has double brackets and then smaller brackets and then double, so it's got some pattern there rather than just every 24 inches, the same thing. But here, I suspect we'll find out, as in the last building that we saw, that this building, that it's got a pretty bold treatment at the upper portion of the building, whether it's brick or whatever it might be, and so.
Did you notice that we're not feeling as uncomfortable as we did with the bottom of the Oriole window? Nobody seems to notice it.
With the cast.
No,
I
was gonna
noticed it
ask-
when we
I was
came
gonna
back to
ask
it.
If we want to apply the same
The-
logic.
The reason we didn't feel uncomfortable with this is because of the lintel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
So-
wide
So it comes down and it's, and it.
Yep.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, but this is masonry, this is brick and cast stone, and so it's gonna be different than the
Yeah.
wood. Cause I was thinking about suggesting this with the wood, with the cementitious fiber or whatever the clapboard buildings. But you're not gonna put cast stone there, so that was kind of the. Also, this cornice, I think, is a little chunkier, it's got more depth, like, it's taller,
Mhm.
which is better across the board.
You're just at home with it. The others, you didn't know why, but you weren't at home with it.
This one proportionately works with the building.
Yeah.
I think,
It's also
Not-
higher up.
not trying to ape the other, the neighboring buildings
Right.
and falsely historicize it with something. But, I think it's a reasonably good modern interpretation of the cornice. But it's done with flat stock as opposed to a lot of detail.
My suspicion is that if we saw a side view or section, it would be kind of an awkward, in the detail of that, it's a bit of an awkward termination as it hits the corner. So it might be, at least if there were end brackets there, at a minimum, that might help that.
Or if the top
Intersection.
cornice extrusion kind of return.
If there was a turn or at least
Yeah.
brackets at the
Yeah.
front, yeah, something,
And that's consistent with
Well,
what
and
we
we
asked
are
for on the
going to
other,
need to see
if we asked for that on the south end
detailed
buildings too, I think,
section
right?
views
Yes.
and
Return.
no, we didn't get to return yet, I didn't think we got to return yet, we talked about brackets.
Okay.
But we didn't yet get to start to talk about,
You could just turn the corners.
will they turn the corners?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Shall we move on?
Move on,
180?
180. This one I have, There needs to be a break in the cornice in order to produce individual buildings and variation in the cornice design. Windows should have an exterior trim or casing. The proportions of the bay window in relation to the first floor windows and door needs to be revised. The bottom of the bay should come up to match the top of the
top
door
of the
trim,
door, yeah.
door casing. That's what I have.
Heavy, I think this one, even though we start to talk about the casings in the next project, I think here is another place where a heavy casing will only help. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the Oriole has quite a bit of meat to it proportionally, but the windows, individual windows, look like they're pinstriped. Needs a wider trim piece.
I mean, is there any opportunity even on these bays to give them a little bit of individual flair? Like a little bit different from the one tour from the left and
Paneling, you certainly can.
just,
And this is the one too that if every other door was different,
yes.
that may also mean that if every other Oriole was, two matched and.
Can you zoom into, let's see what's shown on the, how big you can get the Oriole? So we can see what the upper treatment of it is. They're actually kind of big panels under the window, big flat panels.
Yeah. The number,
And now zoom back out so we can see the top a little bit, please. Now we're in. Perfect.
Are you restricted by, I'm assuming, cost and any regulations in terms of the population that is planned to be living here in terms of window size? Like,
Egress windows, emergency egress.
is there a way you can make these windows a little bigger, a little taller?
Yeah, no, there are no restrictions, other than cost, yeah.
Which is a logical restriction, I understand,
But yeah, we can look into that. More of a vertical proportion.
yeah, like more closer to the dimensions of that last building that you're restoring, where they're,
Right.
yeah, more vertical. Not wider, taller.
And there's a minimum sill height, if it's below that, then it has to be on safety glazing.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
And there's minimum dimensions for emergency egress.
Right.
For the firefighter with a backpack.
Right.
Not getting larger, except for budget.
And then the sill height.
And the sill height.
what is the sill height?
Is it
24
18
inches
It's
or
18 inches.
18 inches?
And that would probably require safety glass.
Which I'm sure would kill your budget.
So each building has 3 individual units, right?
Yes.
So on the Orioles here, or on these buildings, we talked about the cornices, individual cornices, we talked about maybe a bit more, we talked about the windows, and again, more robust trim and or the sizing of the windows. The Orioles also less Oriole at the base and maybe some different detailing amongst them, however that works for you. So that they're not just all the same, and then the doors, same. And then the other item I think on these was how you'll handle the trim around those first floor windows.
variety of doors.
Actually, doors, the variety of doors could, without really impacting the project, it's just design, also impact the surrounds, the architraves around the doors. You may have some alternate choices that don't have any cost impact, but at least again, add to the variety of the
1 and 3 could match, and then
Yeah.
2 and 4 could match. At the basement, down at the foundation, could one of these be handicap accessible? I don't think they are. But you're so close, you know, you got a hill to play around with.
But they've got their required accessible units as part of the overall project.
Elsewhere, yeah, okay.
So it's met elsewhere
Yeah,
in the project.
yeah. And Jack, even the one that's on the left,
Mhm.
which is, it looks like that's got the best opportunity, but you need a 5-foot landing in front of that door.
No, yeah,
And then
True.
each of those risers is
Yeah.
about 7 inches. So you got 14 inches, which means then you need another 14 feet of ramp,
okay,
plus another landing.
yeah,
Yeah, in practicality, the ramp would have to go parallel to the front of the building.
never mind.
So the foundations, concrete, we could talk about here color.
They should be broken up
What
too.
are these addresses?
Um,
This is 180 Clinton Avenue. So it's currently one lot
Oh, okay, gotcha, okay.
with the laundromat on it.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, also the same thing with the soffit. You gotta put a break on the foundation line so that it belongs to one building, not to two or more.
So the variations, you could, I don't think you would, it wouldn't be reasonable to try to get 4 different colors of concrete as part of a single big pour, et cetera, et cetera. But we, there's concrete color, and then there's other colors to think about if you want. There's the delineation between the buildings, which is really a scoring, right, as part of the pour. And there's any other kind of scoring that we could or couldn't talk about relative to more of a, not concrete block, but kind of like a stone foundation block scale. I don't think that's very important, at least on the leftmost 2 buildings that we're seeing here, because it's so low to the ground. That once we, a good heavy line between those buildings will probably suffice. What do you think the height of the concrete is on the most building to the farthest right there?
I think it's about 2.5 feet.
One, two, three, yeah. Is there any ventilation? These are all, they're done on crawl spaces,
Slab on grade.
they're slab on grade.
Oh yeah, are these gonna have those vents sticking out of
Yeah.
them? Or are those gonna be on the side?
Or through the roof.
Through the roof.
Um,
But you know like that new building where there's just like a million little vents that stick out? You would show those, right? If we saw
they'd
them
be
on
through
site.
the roof, but there's a parapet.
Okay,
Parapet would be high enough to
Okay.
conceal those, yeah.
Well, if you care about those, which we should care about those, there's a whole bunch of different kinds of vents. So there's the venting for whatever the HVAC units are. There's venting for dryers, that's what you see, and
are
then,
those what's on the Central Ave building?
yeah, there's a,
Yeah,
do they all have in, yeah, so what are the penetrations you have at the sidewalls or the front wall?
Well, we won't have any in the front.
Okay,
And probably won't have any on the side because however we design the two in the middle, if they either go through the roof or out the back.
so all the vents
Right,
and the fresh air.
Yeah.
Wonder why there's so many, yeah, that is a lot of vents for that building.
Yeah, that one central lab building is like, it's like polka dot.
That really,
Yeah,
yeah.
they just went crazy with advance on that one straight.
Well, yeah, yeah, it's like,
That's our own mind.
Are any of the foundations that we're gonna see higher than this 30 inches? Go back through and look.
233 maybe, I don't recall.
Should we go to the next one?
Next one.
Oh, yeah. But I feel like this has all the same, it's the same conversation we've been having, like,
Yes.
it's all the
Yep.
same. And I feel like these are pretty good renderings, but the more detail and accuracy you can give us in terms of scale, the better and the easier it will be for us to not kick it back. Because a lot of times what happens is if we see something and it's not accurate on the rendering, then like with that, with the restoration, for example, like,
When you prepared the final package and we talked about the railings, and so we'll give some more information on the railings, it'd be nice to see a section drawing of the stair. I don't, PPT wood stair paint, PPT pressure treated?
Pressure treated.
Yeah,
PPT?
pressure treated,
PPT?
Yes.
Okay, so
preservative pressure treated, preservative pressure treated.
preservative pressure treated. So does that have to wait to get painted, like pressure treated, the same you?
In my experience, now that they don't have as much chemicals or the arsenic in there, we usually prime them and paint them and they've held up on some of the exterior stairs that we've built.
At that time, you're not waiting any longer.
Yeah, we're not waiting a year.
Yeah.
6 months even. See you next week.
Usually down at the lumberyard, they're soaking wet.
That,
If they fell
It's
off
about-
the truck going across a river, they'd sink.
this is true. When you're building stairs, you're also conscious about what you're choosing and what pieces you're picking.
So the section will tell us how you're building it, are there nosings, is there a little bit of detail around the stair? With the side panels are being treated, it's good to see.
Just noticed on all of these, how much is the doorway recessed? If you look at the old building to the right, you notice there's at least a brick, 8 inches, and then you start in with the wood. Are these flush with the street, or should they be back just a little bit?
Yeah, I think right now we have them back just a couple inches.
I wonder if it should be a little more. I mean, I notice you haven't put any shading on it, any place there for where a shadow line would be. What would they look like if they were absolutely flush?
and it was pretty flush.
Shouldn't they go in a little bit?
I mean, there's advantages to that, keeping that door dry over,
Yeah.
bottled water straight on, running off through your plastic.
Do you have a little bit of depth without looking around with the wood?
These are totally flush, these doors, they are,
Right there, right now.
right, they're flush with the brick. And
And if you have examples up and down Clinton Ave, especially near here, where there's a pretty good diversity of architectural styles, that you can show us some examples of older existing houses that have flush doors or, you know, some of the things that you're showing us that will also help.
It's all good. Glad you're building them.
Yeah.
Can we get to the rehab?
The rehab, you said?
I think so. You got this, you got that one already, right? I don't think we need to go over that one again.
Okay, this was the only,
Okay.
this is the only rehab, so it's
Okay.
the 10-new construction and the one rehab.
Yeah, when you're looking at existing buildings and their window proportions, I would not use that pink one as an example.
No. For 337 Clinton, it's apparent from the photo that you have that these were 2/2 windows. Would we be looking at that for the new replacement windows?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we match those.
Are they beyond repair?
That's a good question. I look into it. I'm not sure we can get to the second floor anymore, so the stairs are not known. But we did have the building scanned, so I can look at both scanned photos.
It would be great if you didn't have to throw the windows out when you fix them.
Yeah.
And it would probably ultimately save you some money.
It is a wood facade and a full building, right? It's not a masonry facade?
Oh.
It's wood?
It's all wood.
Yeah.
We are gonna have a historical consultant help us with this one.
Are you using
Yeah,
tax
that's why.
credits?
It would probably help also as you go through some of the new construction details that we've been talking about.
Yeah, cause I would not recommend showing that picture on the left to SHPO or the Park Service if you're using tax credits.
Did you wanna say something about the archaeology?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to make a comment that I have reviewed the Phase 1A Literature Review and Archaeological Sensitivity Assessment Report that was submitted to us and to SHPO. So some of the parcels were chosen for Phase 1B excavations. And I was just gonna read a few small sections of the report. Based on the historical and documentary review, it is recommended that Phase 1B archaeological testing be conducted at 11 of the 27 parcels within the project, but not all of those are within the historic district. So the ones that we're concerned about are 72 Clinton, 180 Clinton, and 233 Clinton. I think the other ones are outside of the historic district, aren't they? I think it's just 3.
I think the one site within the district where they identified for test pits was 233, and I think that 180 and 72 have potential.
So those 3 will have.
Are all
phase 1B.
within, yes, are all.
Yeah, I thought you said 9 earlier, I was wondering where you got that figure, but we may have been, yeah. So it's three that we're concerned about in the historic district. These locations are noted as having privies on multiple historic maps, as well as having characteristics such as a carriage road, which is the case of 233 Clinton. And just to backtrack, we spoke a little bit about privies, I think the last time we all met in the workshop, but privies are chosen as as points of interest. Because here it says here, privies could contain rich archaeological deposits, especially considering the project area's sensitivity to historic contexts. And another notable feature includes a carriage road that is visible in the rear of the parcel at 233 Clinton. One last paragraph that's important. Due to the nature of the urban landscape and the possibility of high concentrations of archaeological materials, it is recommended that each of these parcels are subjected to reduced interval testing of 50 by 50 centimeter shovel test pits and or mechanical trenching to better assess the integrity of the soil column. And the archaeological focus should be on features such as privies, cisterns, discrete trash pits, and other sealed deposits that can be tied to individuals, families, and or occupants at specific time periods at these various lots. So I think this is great. It really covers what I was hoping, and I concur with these recommendations. And we'll just await the Phase 1B report, which will discuss the findings of the excavations, and as soon as that becomes available, which isn't going to be anytime soon because the excavations haven't happened yet, I'll share that with the other commissioners so you can all review it as well.
So you can see the road kind of meandering behind 233 in the imagery attached to the report.
Yeah, it should be interesting.
Well, do you have enough to chew on?
Thank you.
Hopefully you're not choking on it, it's just a mild chew. No, it's an exciting project, and it's really great to see infill happening, filling in some of the holes in the landscape, and the fabric of the city. So we certainly encourage all action in getting this through all the regulatory hurdles you have to go through and get it built.
I will also write everything up for you and send it on your way. And then I know that I talked to Spencer and Dan from Labella, and I think, depending on if there's how long it takes or any additional information from the planning board or whatnot, means I think you'll be back, or the planners will be back in May. So, if anything.
Do we need the Phase 1B reports before the public hearing for this?
And when is the public hearing gonna be
Well,
for the HRC?
tentatively it's in May, but I think we can have that discussion depending. I think we have to figure out, seeker still needs to be fully completed on this, and I think we have some questions about archaeology with that for you later, Jen, but
Okay.
we can talk offline,
Okay.
so we can figure that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we will.
All right, well, thank you.
Alright, thank you.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask Aaron.
Where's the carriage road that was described? Isn't that a city alley?
Well,
I thought they had a city alley all the way in between starting from Pembroke and going all the way.
I'm trying to see if we can bring it up here.
Here it is.
Oh, good, you have it up.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah, oh, it's not that.
It's a really cool project that was gonna show Aaron that we're gonna get involved with on Broadway.
Oh, nice.
It's kind of a gander back there. Normally
Yeah.
you expect it
Straight,
shot
right.
Oh, nice, is my driveway still there?
Yeah, I thought
like
that's
down
what,
in the pastures, that's all.
Every time I drive over, I'm like, please don't
Oh.
close.
I
Oh,
don't
that's
know if it's
fantastic.
So you're climbing up the hill.
oh, quite a ways.
Yeah.
Huh.
Bill is.
Yeah, it's not the standard one that's,
Right.
what's going on with School 7
Oh, that's
on Clinton Avenue?
That was part of the home leasing phase 2.
Yeah.
They are converting that into residential apartments.
Yeah.
And so that did come to us a
Yeah,
few years ago.
is it happening?
Yeah, I mean, they've been working on that building.
That's
so,
what I thought, yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Is there anything else to come before the commission this evening?
I know that Aaron had,
Was I gonna talk about St. Joe's or was I gonna talk about the city hall group?
Both, and I have something too.
Well, so I'll start with St. Joe's. St. Joe's is in the Timberland Triangle Historic District, but is it individually listed as well? I know it doesn't really
it
matter.
is not, so
Okay.
I did pull it, and I apologize if I'm to remind you, it is only within the district, it's not individually listed.
And there, so whatever, so the city is putting it on the market to the highest bidder,
So.
and any restrictions?
So I'm not sure what the plan is as far as listing it. Currently, I did reach out to Martin Daly to see if he had any information. I think he still kind of is in like the information gathering stage for this and trying to like figure out exactly some of the logistics. It had been listed for sale, was it this past summer?
Well, when they invited RFPs for it,
Yeah, so it did go out, I think it was this past, no, it was, yes, it was this past summer, spring, almost a year ago now. It had gone out and it was an RFP or RFQ.
Okay.
And they did solicit, bids with proposals that were reviewed, so it was, you know, making sure that it complied with the zoning regulations. We looked at it to make a determination that, you know, any the changes, you know, were going to be also compliant with historic resource overlay guidelines.
Did that come before the HRC?
It didn't because, no one was selected to purchase the building, or those that were selected, it never actually went through for
that was
purchase.
back in April of last year.
Okay, yeah, so almost a year ago, yeah. So it didn't move forward, it didn't come to the HRC because we didn't have a solid proposal in place, but I mean, anybody that had the proposal for it was made aware that they were going to have to be, you know, compliant and would have to come to the HRC. John and myself were both on the interview committees for those, so we did
Okay.
review all of
So
those.
we
Oh,
pose
good.
the appropriate questions to each of the developers.
And there were, I mean, there were some good proposals and there were some pretty
Really wacky ones.
wacky.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what was the
Yeah,
wacky?
give us the wacky.
Of the wedding chapel.
Yeah, I was gonna say that we had the wedding chapel, which was
That
probably
one
one
was
of like
pretty squirrely.
the,
Uh,
yeah.
Huh.
And then
By the way, are you
apartments,
online?
community center, restaurant, B&B, so, I mean, it kind of,
B
they
and
kind of,
B?
yeah, like upscale hotel B&B, they kind of ran the gamut of,
So is there a plan so I guess you reached out to Martin, so is there, can we say anything, or I guess I'm putting out there, do we wanna say anything about making sure that the city follows makes it clear,
I mean, I
the
think,
comment
yeah.
alarmed me, cause it sounded like they were gonna put a for sale sign on the front of it.
no, I mean, I think it's probably going to be a very similar process to what has previously been done of like requesting that bids and proposals, like project proposals be put in place. I mean, it was a very sympathetic, like, process of making sure like this is a historic gem within the city of Albany, and there are a lot of eyes on it, and there's a lot of, there's been a large, long process previously of, people coming in and, attempt and failures at trying to reuse this space, so I think we wanna make sure that like, and the city is aware of that there's sensitivity to whatever goes there, and that we need it to be.
And there were financial performance,
Great.
provided with it. So
And-
that there was a demonstration with how they were financing it. And then kind of a game plan, how they would approach it.
And examples, I mean, for the more serious of the proposals also was examples of, previous work in similar situations.
Was Historic Albany part of that review committee?
It was all internal,
Okay,
all internal.
okay.
So I got lost, about how many proposals did you receive and then none were selected?
There were 4.
There were 4 received.
Well, there were, yeah.
Yeah.
And there was at
We
least,
scored them.
we did score them, and then we went through an interview process for 3.
Yeah.
Correct? There was one selected, and it financially just they weren't able to go through, so there was a backup, and they did approach them, and that one also financially just fell apart as well.
So it would be, I guess I'm speaking personally but like, I've sat on one of these kinds of things for a church in Newburgh, that didn't go so well, but it did include outside eyes on the RFQ, and it would probably, I guess I would like to see that there was, I'm glad that you two are on that committee, but given the importance of St. Joe's, seems like having, we have Historic Albany Foundation here, and
Yeah.
even the Preservation League of New York State involved in that process, I think would be very helpful and important
Yeah,
to have. Just
No, I agree.
yeah. There was, I mean, also outside of us, Tony Opalka was also on the committee
Yeah,
for both, yeah.
but it would be nice to have Historic Albany
Yeah.
and the Preservation League and it sounded like it was a city walkthrough to look at condition issues. Was there a preservation architect that was part of that walkthrough?
I think it's a tour yourself too.
It wasn't like an official.
Yeah, I don't,
You're probably never gonna post on Facebook again.
yeah, I was unaware of that, so I don't know.
Okay,
The door was open, you could just go in.
you could just go in,
It was raining like crazy, I'm not getting out of the car.
yeah,
Snow wick.
okay.
So what's the end of that? So where is it now? Where's the whole where are we in?
I don't know, other than I know that Martin Daly, who is the infrastructure, our head of infrastructure projects, is possibly, like, I think is still looking for information. I don't think it was supposed to be formally, like, shared or distributed, what the information that you saw, so
Okay,
I don't have any real information other than at some point the city will probably be putting it back out for a request for bids.
So something got out, but
There were-
nothing's happening right now.
photos posted on social media of the inside of St. Joe's, that there was a walkthrough happening to look at leaks in the roof.
Okay.
And then somebody said, oh, what's the city going to do? And the comment was, put it on the market or something along
So
those
that's what
lines.
you picked up.
So
Okay.
I saw that and
Mhm.
immediately emailed Erin.
Right,
And I think
okay.
everybody.
And when I reached out and asked, what's the timeline or information, do you have any information to share other than they're going to, I think, consider restarting that process for relisting it, but I don't, other than that, there was no other information.
Okay.
I guess I just hope that the city, whoever's listening, and
engages some sort of a public process with tree preservation architects and professionals in determining what to do with St. Joseph's and what its capital needs are.
Period.
I would say that
Yes.
publicly.
Yes, that's on the record, don't say
Yeah.
that.
I know that, and I think part of it too, that was one of the steps prior to it being listed was that they did have a historic structure report done for the building. Actually, I think it was Steve Riley.
They were on one of the teams, I believe.
Yeah, well, I think
They were on the Redburn team.
yes, so they did do a structural report
Which
and
was
provided that with,
moderately reassuring that something was gonna happen probably.
Yeah.
At least with that team.
I think that's the motion to adjourn.
Alright, so
That's the
Let's come home for dinner.
Can't go.
alright, that was all.
No, you have the city hall.
The city hall roof, it looks like there's a project happening and I don't know.
I think the bids were received, one of my contractors on a job told me that, I think the bids were received Tuesday,
Friday from,
is that right?
I'm not sure, that is another one that
where do you wanna do it?
that is under our, came out of our engineering department,
Wanna go
they're
9 o'clock?
handling that,
See you at 9 o'clock.
Yeah,
I checked
so-
about it.
But do we have jurisdiction over city-owned buildings?
we've reviewed it in the past, I mean, with that one, from the scope of work that I had seen that had been reviewed by SHPO, it was mostly for repair and replacement in kind with a material that was sourced to match what was there. Whether that comes back in the bid, I would like to see that, but that was not shared with me.
Okay, so it's a sort of thing that would, if this were a private property, would have been a staff level review because it's repair and replacement in kind.
Depending on, yeah, as long as that was the actual case, yes. But that one also, I mean, they haven't hired anyone as of yet, I believe, so I mean,
They were
I guess
just
it
taking
depends
the
on
bids
what
this
the,
week.
it depends on what their bids come back as. And then, I mean,
Wouldn't we be wanting to review the bid package before it goes out to bid? Because what if we have feedback? Alright.
Too much sense, too much sense.
Yeah, so I suggest that among the most important buildings in the city, where the HRC really does have jurisdiction, that should be emphasized.
Yeah.
We'd also, of course, the commissioners would also be pleased to see other significant buildings, even if they weren't yet part of our jurisdiction. But those that are really should be seen by the commission. And when the bids come in, that's late. We'll assume everything's good, but if you don't know, that's a message, I think, to be taken back.
We're still waiting to hear about the change of City Hall on front of it.
Oh,
Steps.
The one, well, according to the drawing that was submitted to Channel 13, there were
Remember
no
that god
steps.
awful.
They were buried.
Yeah.
In a platform going out, and that never has seen light of day since, so. And
Maybe it died a quick and silent
Oh, how
death.
merciful.
mercifully,
Long weekend's coming up, huh?
All the buildings will be demolished
Oh,
and
no.
we'll have a new plaza. Sorry.
So I have one last thing, more positive. Somehow I got added to a group chat. I don't do really usually many group chats, but for the NAPC, the National Association of Preservation Commissions.
Mhm.
And they are very active in conversation, and it's very interesting just watching people chatter back and forth about their commissions and, what's your policy on, just as an example, what's your policy on public right of way? How are you defining public right of way? What about if the rear is visible from X? Or what about the sides? We'll see sides of buildings and we see really less desirable treatment on the sides, even if they're visible, but we pretend as if it's an elevation, or what are you all doing about this or that, or murals, so it's a very interesting set of conversations and active, and they're active, and I'm wondering how the other commission members could possibly join. Do you know, do we need to be a member? Can we kind of scope that out?
I think the city or the planning department could join, and then it would cover all of us as being members of them.
And we would all get the feed.
I believe I think the way that I've looked at it before is that it would be to the commission. So whatever our makeup of the commission is, I don't think each of them have to be individually registered. I think like we as the city could register, and then it would like they do trainings and they do camps. Like if you go to or have been to any of the statewide preservation
That's right.
conferences, they're always the ones that are doing the
That's
CLD
right.
training. And then we could always sign up to have our own individual like camp session with them as well. But I can definitely look into that.
Yeah,
I got
think if
emails
it was-
from them.
I really avoid most group chats. But this one's useful and interesting to see what people are thinking about and where some of the questions are coming from, or the more assertive commissions, what they're working with. So if it's possible not to get filtered through just one person who then reports in, but if it was at all possible for the commission members to individually be part of that, I think it'd be very interesting.
And I can also, I mean, they offer webinars, occasionally throughout the year. They do, I mean, they were doing, I think, like virtual camp sessions and other things like that, so I can always share that with you. I think it's only like if you're I think it's free for members, and then if you're a non-member, I think it's usually only like $15, which is pretty affordable.
I'm liking the chat though.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I mean, they're usually, they're really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, just before the pandemic, there were a few sessions that we attended with them.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and like the ones in Albany prior to the start of those, before the conference actually started, one of the really nice things was that they actually had like coordinated with SHPO and then like the local CLG, and we had a discussion about like things like that we had been struggling with, and so some of that they
that's right.
catered specifically to like what CLGs needed, materials, infills and things like that would be good to have information on.
Not to beat a dead horse, but yes, I've attended some of those. Some are for new commission members all over, and so many of us would find those conversations not that interesting. So it really is the live conversation in the field of people thinking about windows, thinking about plastic, that I think would just be great if it's possible.
So I do have really great news. We have hired a preservation manager. His name is Christopher Lohman. He's finishing up his master's degree right now. He's at the University of Florida in Tallahassee. And he will be starting May 13th. So,
You gonna bring him to a commission meeting?
Sure will. So I think the plan is that there will be a period where we will both be in attendance, and then slowly but surely he will start to fully take over running these meetings and giving you all the information and putting together your packets and things like that. But yep, so he, finished up his master's. He's been working for the Preservation Trust of Tallahassee Preservation Trust. So we'll get him up here. We'll make sure that he gets introduced to everybody, and I think he's very enthusiastic and excited to be coming to Albany. So yeah.
Will he have other duties, or will he have time to, like you used to have, when you weren't so pulled in so many directions?
He will probably be taking on a lot of like the administrative side of this, and I mean he'll be doing a lot of like the the staff reviews, assisting with permits and as applications come in, so, and then working with applicants and having the time to maybe do some of like more of the pre-application meetings and walking people through
What's
the
his
process.
title?
He will be the historic preservation planner. It's a planner, entry level planner position. We just were unable to fill that at senior planner level, unfortunately, but yeah, so he will be a planner.
Ready?
I'll put forth a motion to adjourn.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.